From your Chapter 18 folder, open the file Chapter 1802 Guide Grids. We'll start this video by saying that guide grids are really for control freaks, and I'll happily put myself into that category. When creating a set of drawings, I want to know that my views, if we have a multi-story building, are in exactly the same place on every sheet. This may seem like I've got a bit of an obsessive-compulsive disorder, but I really think it adds to the presentation. If you're not bothered, don't bother with this particular video. But if you're a little bit like me, follow along. From your View tab, click on Guide Grid. I'm going to create a new guide grid, and I'm going to call this North Views, and click on OK. You don't need to worry about this guide grid showing up in printing, because the guide grid is a non-printing element. It can be a little bit distracting, however, but you can, from the View tab, go to Visibility Graphics, and under the Annotation categories, turn off Guide Grid. So what can we do with this guide grid now that we've created it? Let's look at the Properties palette and select the guide grid. Here we can specify a guide spacing, let's say it's 50 millimeters. We can stretch the guide grid using grips. It doesn't necessarily have to be the entire sheet. We can then decide where our view is going to sit in relation to this guide grid. Scrolling in, I can select my viewport and then move it. I can move the viewport using, say, the intersection of grid A1 to the intersection of guide grid lines. Now that I've done this on H5003, which is one of my north plans, I can go to H5006, Level 2 HVAC North, go to the View tab and click on Guide Grid, choose an existing guide grid, and then go and grab my Level 2 North plan. Place it on the sheet, and just to make sure that we're using exactly the same grid line, let's go back to Level 1 and adjust my guide grid. Look at Level 2 North, and we can now move our viewport using the grid lines and the guide grid. Perfection is guaranteed, and I can rest easy at night knowing that my drawings are identical.